Hey everybody, thanks for buying my Kookaburra course here, workshop. I'm really excited about them because they are so much fun to make. They are really special. So I just wanted to let you know that in the beginning of the class, we're going to do the feathers first, and then we'll start with the whole wire armature. So if you're wondering about that, because once we'll put the feathers aside and then we'll go ahead, and when we come to that, you'll just be able to pop them on. So let's get started. Okay, everybody, let's make feathers. So I'm going to video a cockatoo, how to make a cockatoo. Where is he? He's here. And I'm going to video a galah, and I'm also going to video a kookaburra. So rather than do all those feathers in every one, I just thought I would do one video to show you. Okay, so first of all, I need some more cockatoo feathers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some white wool here. And you can use merino, corridale, you can use all different types of fibers in your feathers, whatever you like. You're just making a very thin layer. I'd already made it, so I'm just pulling it off from there and putting it across like that. Now there's so many different ways to make feathers, but I feel like this is kind of a beginner level. You can go and do a lot more with this, and we'll talk about that as we go along, or you can stick with this. But I quite like this method and I use it a lot. Make sure there's no gaps. So I'm just using corridale here, which is what you've all got in your bird packs. The other thing I could put in here, this is alpaca and silk and very fine merino. It's a little bit tricky to work with because it's just so beautiful and soft. But at a later date, if you'd like to either add it to your feathers, or you'd like to make your feathers out of that. But it's best to use corridale at first, the first time you make feathers, because it's quite easy to deal with the corridale. Now you can put other colours in there. See, this is a natural light. Which is just gives it a little bit more, not that absolutely stark white color. You can do all sorts of different colors. Let's add in some lemon, because cockatoos often will have lemon at the end of their tail feathers. So why don't we put a little bit of lemon down the end here. Okay, so basically what we're going to be making is this feather. Okay, so you can see I'm pulling it and it's not falling apart, and I'm going to show you how to do that. I haven't shaped them or anything. Normally I shape them once they get onto the bird. So what I'm going to do is I've got this hemming tape here, and I've got that available on the website, or you can buy it at your local haberdashery. But to make this a little bit quicker, let me put my glasses on for this. I am going to just cut this, not quicker, to make this easier. You'll see this in a minute. Right, so you can cut this on a quilting board if you're a quilter in your last life, like I was. You can just get your roller, but I just wanted to show you that you can actually cut it like this. Now, once you've got it in half, I want very, very thin strips. Can you see how thin that I'm doing this? It's a little bit tricky to get it very thin. So out of one strip of hemming tape, I'm actually going to cut 3 different strips. So I'm going to cut that down, leave that there. So this is this tape here. Look how wide it was. And I'm going to cut that down the center here. You've all got some in your kits anyway. But if you want some more to make more feathers, I've got it online for you, rather than you having, if you're buying other things, you can throw it in the cart and not have to run down to Spotlight or anywhere. I'm trying to be cheaper than Spotlight as well, which is actually not that hard. I never realized how dear Spotlight was. Okay, here we go. So we're going to put that through there like that. Now make sure that you've got the shiny side, which is the glue side, along there. And we're making 6 feathers here. So once you've got it lined like that, then you get your iron. Now the trick with the iron is to not have your steam on. Oops, that's trying to make sure that these are all on the right side. There we go. I'm just going to hold this iron down on here to make sure that they're really sticky and they've stuck on like that. Oops, oh dear, what's happened there? My iron took that up. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Now you can either use your a wool pad, that's a handmade wool pad, or you can use one of these oh, there's another feather, one of these machine made felt pads. There, I've also got these available online, which are great for this part of the feather making. If you don't want to iron on your lovely wool mat here, this is a very old one I've got. Okay, so once we get it to this point, then we want to what we want to do is cut them down the center. Make sure you're running along your now, depending how wide you want these feathers, obviously if you're going to want really big feathers, you would only put 2 strips down and then you'd have a much bigger feather. The other thing you can do, we'll make another feather in a minute after we've done these ones. Now what I want to show you is the stem of the feather. You can either use a different color or you can just use this same corridal that you used, or you can use another. It depends on the kind of feathers you're making. This feather method will work for any feathers because you can cut the feather to whatever shape you like once you've got it finished. So you just need to make sure you've got the width of the wool on there. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of put this wool that I've just laid across the top here down on either side. The other thing you can do is get a piece of this is 26 gauge wire, and you can lay that through there as well if you want to have wire feathers, which are really lovely, especially if you're making bigger animals, you know, that bigger birds that you want to have really big feathers. So I'm just putting that on either side for 2 reasons. 1, to start stabilizing it all a little bit more, but 2, also to hide the tape. But it's easy enough to, because it does look like the spine of a feather anyway. So it probably needs another little bit of corridal down here. But you could see how beautiful. What about this? I brought some tussin silk over to show you as well. This comes in all different colors, and this is just amazing. Tussar silk. And if you make feathers out of that, oh my heavens, or even just add it in, I'll just show you with your corridal. It would just make the most beautiful. You could just put it over like this. You could put it in that way even at this point, and just add in a very fine lot of it. You could use your carder to just, where's my carder gone? To wisp it out a bit more. Oh, I can't find it. What did I do with it? Right. I'll just pull it out like this. and lay it over like that if you want to have it very, very silky. And this will come out as, you know, once you've got it all. You can tell it's a little bit tricky to deal with, which is why I don't put it in the beginner's kits. But with this, I just want to give you lots and lots of different ideas on, you know, the next birds that you want to make, that you can use all this different fibre. I'll put a little bit more over the top here. You don't have to just stick. Corridale is fantastic. However, you can use other fibres. Let's see how this goes down. So try not to poke your hemming fabric underneath, because it does have a glue on the back of it. So just try to run it along like that, and try and, we'll have to cut this again. I didn't realize I was actually going to do that and show you that, but now we've done that. That's okay. I like to give you as much information as I can. Okay, so let me just cut that tussar silk through here, and you can see what it looks like then, because this is the feathers just made out of Corridale. Okay, so once you feel like it's fairly stable, now we all know that everything sticks to the mat crazily, so these are going to be sticking to the mat. So what you need to do is just very gently pull them off like that. Now I do have another felting surface here that I'm going to start working with to transport them, or otherwise you can just flip them over or take them all off. This is one of my medium-sized mats. You can see that the larger mat actually works a little bit better. So I'm just going to stabilize all of this again before I turn it over. It's starting to get fairly solid. You can use a multi-tool down the side of the spine. Even this one will work really well. Try not to, it's easier if you try not to stick it onto the glue, the needles, because the needles will stick. So I'm trying to go either side of this now, but trying not to keep, you know, trying to keep the ends of this fluffy. Okay, let's go back over this side. Like anything you're making, needle felting, you do one side, then do the other side, then do one side, and then the other side, until you feel that it's actually stable enough. There we go. If you can see the tape and you don't like that, just lay a little bit more wool on there like that and hide it. Hide it very easily like that. Okay, so you'll see that one side of the feather where we've cut it is quite straight and the other's quite fluffy. So think about how you want your feathers to look, and I'll show you in a minute. So that one's coming off, and we'll just give that a zhuzh along the middle here and make sure that's quite stable down. Now, like I say, you can put wire in the middle, very, very fine wire. I have this white 26 gauge, which is great. But you can also, if you're making black feathers, you can just paint it with acrylic paint. You can paint all our paper wires here at Wild Woolly. I'm often painting them different colours. you know, if I'm doing birds' feet and they're more pinky, I'll paint them, or grey. We've got brown and white wire, which the white's very handy to paint into other colours. Okay, so once I've got this. Now, if your feathers have all got different colours along them, you need to think about that. Have a study up on your, whatever bird you're making, you know, Google galah feathers or Kookaburra feathers, and just have a really good look at the colours within those feathers, and then start adding them to, you know, the bottom or the top, or in the middle, or some of them are stripy, so you could do a stripy feather all the way along. We might do one of those, and I'll show you. Okay, so that's 3 feathers there, and we've got 1 more here. Oh, I might just swap over now to my bigger wool mat because it's easier. Just giving it a little zhuzh right down the spine of that hemming tape. Now you can put your wire in and experiment with that. Or you can stick it onto the hemming tape with a little bit of fabric glue. That works well. I often do that. But it all gets a bit complicated now. Feathers, you know, I can spend all morning making feathers just for one bird. So that's why I've made this video for all the different feathers to put into the video. So if you buy my galah kit or my cockatoo or any of my birds kits, this will be the feather one that you get. Okay, so you can see how that's working like that. Now I'm just going to make a cockatoo feather. I've got, because cockies actually have sometimes have a little bit of toffee, and I'm going to use this natural I wasn't thinking about doing this, but now I am. To just show you this natural dark. So and this is a little bit of a different method again. If for the tail feathers, this might work better. These fibers are quite long, but I'm just going to make a bigger feather for you all, and I'm going to only make 1. Might swap these around so it's a little bit more even. See, that's really fluffy, and that's quite where I've pulled it out. Okay, and in between those I'm going to put this. If you have a look at a cockatoo, believe it or not a cockatoo, a kookaburra, sometimes, depending on whether male and female, he'll have a very stripy tail like this. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to get a tiny little bit of tape. I've already got one over here. I'm going to iron that on. So I'm kind of giving you a lot of, if you want to make a lot of feathers, the last method. And if you want to make bigger feathers and fluffier feathers, do this method. You can see how I've only put 1 piece of tape on there. Oh, can also, oops, I'll take that off, sorry. We'll put the wire in. Now you've got to make sure your wire's really straight. A little dab of glue on there if you want. I'll just grab my glue. Here it is. I had it there ready. But the glue is very tricky, because if you put too much on, I'm just going to put an absolute whisper on there, because you don't, glue and wool do not mix very well at all. This is just a multi-grip glue. You can use all different sorts of glue, for hot glue, fabric glue, and I'm going to lay that down on there. Try and lay that down on there, and then I'm going to go and get that piece of fabric. You can roll it like that a little bit to give it a little bit of body, so it sticks better on. It's already a little bit felted, and just put it on down on either side, being careful not to touch the hemming tape. Okay, you can see how complicated these feathers can get, but if you sit for a while and make up a whole heap of them, you'll be really pleased in the end that you made the effort and just didn't put a whole heap of, you know, wool down and just pretend that they're feathers, which I do as well. You know, it depends on what you're making, but if you want to make something really, really special with feathers, you know, you want to use a really nice method. Okay, the other way you can stabilize it is by putting more across like that, and that will stabilize all of that wire and everything again. You don't need to do it all the way along, but just in certain spots like that. I find this the easiest way to make, particularly at the end, to make bigger feathers. Like if you wanted to make a rooster or an eagle, or you'd have to make, I saw a lady made an eagle the other day, and it took her about a week to make the feathers, because she must have made, I don't know how many, maybe 100 like this. So it can be quite time consuming, but worth it if it's a project that you're really invested in. Okay, so this is going to be quite stuck to the mat because I've done quite a fair amount of work on it. So what I want to do now is pull it off very gently and turn it over. Oops, there's something there. And now work all along the spine of this. A few little white fibers on there. I hope everyone can see what I'm doing. So you're going to have to turn off your video and sit now and make all your feathers before we carry on with the rest of this, the bird kit that you've bought. Now, if you see that there's spots, like I can there, just go and put a bit of that over the top. Or you don't think the stripe's coming out enough, or whatever you think. It's your feathers, just... You can even go along it a little bit if you want with this. Clover tool is very good for making thin feathers, or this one. But we're trying not to. It's quite good to do it this way as well. Right, let's lift it up again. And it might be, with one more zhuzh on the other side, finished. Yeah, I think. Now I'm going to get rid of that tape there. I'm going to put a little bit more over here. Don't have to put a lot. Sometimes the ends are a little bit funny. You can add more. Let me have a look. Wool. There it is. like this. If you want. Kind of get it going up and then kind of spread it out a bit like that at the end to make it, put that on the end like that. Hope my head's not in the way. Right, so that's how you get a beautiful feathery feather, and then you can just go and trim it if you like, or not, whatever shape you want. All right, you can go around like that, and then you can bend this feather if you want it to sit over the back of, all right? So that's how you get your wire and your different colors in. So back to these ones. You can see that I've got a feathery end on that. So you might want to just trim that up to the same size as the other side. Or you might want to make all your feathers on your bird thin like this. See how that one was quite wide? Just make sure that you're going to do it'll take you a while, but just get very short bits. Like, the more you pull your fibre out, the shorter it'll get. So to get about that wide, you'll need to work like that. Okay. So I'm not putting wire into my feathers because, let me just show you. I've got these other, these are for my dogs that I make when I groom them. But these are great for just getting the shape right around like that at the top. That needs to come off a little bit more, but you're all understanding where I'm going with this. So that's trying it with lots of other different types of fibers, alpaca and silk and very fine merino, and that one is as well. I can trim that up a little bit. Just use your scissors if you don't have dog grooming scissors. There's some yellow on the end here for our cockatoo. Right. And then there's other bigger ones. You might want to leave some a little bit bigger, these feathers a little bit wider than others for when we go and do, because these are all going on the wings and the tail, which we're up to now, I believe, on the video. Okay, so I've got all of those ready now. All right, let's get back to our bird video. All right, let's get started, everybody. Here we go with this, Kookaburra. He was so fun to make. So let's try and make a replica of him. Okay, first of all, what we're going to do, I'm not going to go through all the stuff in the kit because otherwise the video just gets so long. It's already long enough. What we're going to do is we're going to follow this pattern here. Now, I haven't quite drawn in where the wire is going to go because this was my prototype, and I'll put it in at this point. So it'll be there though when you guys go to make your Kookaburra. So you should have 2 green pieces of wire and 2 paper color pieces of wire. It's quite important to keep these wires the way that we want them. So first of all, we're going to get the green one and fold it down. You can use pliers. You know, I use this fine wire because you can actually use your hands if you don't have a set of pliers. Let me just see that I'm in the right spot. So twist, twist. We're not twisting tight. We're not twisting loose. Okay, and what we want to do, I'll just put my little bird there, is we want to twist right to the end of his beak. But not that end, just a little bit to there. We want to go up a little bit for his head here. I'm going to go like that. And we want it on about that angle there, like that. Bring that in a little bit. We want it sitting about like that. Okay, and then what we're going to do, we're going to twist it down. Let me get a, sorry, I forgot to get a lead pencil. We're going to twist it down to about the top of his wing. Okay, and then there'll be a dot there on yours. You'll be able to see that. Then we're going to get the other piece of green wire like that and squeeze that in like that. Put it over the top of his beak, and then we're going to move these shorter ones around. So you've got 2 long and 2 short. Twice. 1, 2. We're going to have them coming out at the bottom, and they're going to be form part of his legs. So we've got that coming out there and that coming straight down. Can you see what we've done there? And the long ones now are going down his back. So you might want to bend up the head a bit like that. Yeah. Everybody see that, I hope, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to open it. And we're going to bring these 2 longer wires together and hold them there. And then we're going to twist those all the way back to the end. Now that's going to be his tail feathers. So if you can see, that should kind of fit perfectly like that. And that should come down like that. You can have him sitting out a little bit more. See, like that. That's how he's going to sit. Okay. So once you've got those, pull him out and straighten up his legs to go down like that. We might make him this way first, and then we might change the shape of him at some point. Okay. Once you've got him to that point, put that body aside for a minute, and I want you to get the paper coloured wire, and we're going to make this. Okay, so the dots are the end of the wire. So what we're going to do is we're going to make bends at about 2 centimetres. Now there's so many different ways, everyone, to make these legs. Can you see what I'm doing? Exactly the same there. But this is kind of a beginner's way. I like to cover mine with Sculpty and bake it in the oven. And I like to sometimes do my beaks in Sculpty as well. But, you know, not always. 1, 2. It's very time consuming doing that. So if you're making these for friends and family and you just want to have a lovely bird, this is more than sufficient. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to pull the first one around to the back. We're going to squeeze it down a little bit like that. Oh, ow. Might be better to use your hand. That hurt. And then squeeze this one down. I've never done that before. And squeeze this one down. And squeeze the last one. So you've got 3 at the front, like that, and 1 at the back. So pull them out a little bit into a shape. And then you're going to get this long wire and you're going to pull it up like that. So we have 1 little foot there. Now the other thing you can do to make them stand, they stand better if you turn this little claw over like that. I don't know why, but that is very helpful in the standing. Okay, so that's 1 done. We'll get the other one. And the same way, you want to get it. Sorry, I've done so many of these that I don't need to measure it down there. But you might want to measure it 2 centimetres. They're not really anatomically correct, these birds. They're pretty close, but you know, you do need to think about that you're just a beginner, and don't knock yourself out trying to get them all shaped right, because you could cover them in wool if you like at the end, or not. 1, 2, 3. There's quite a few different things you could do with these. So I've got 4 there. I'm just going to squeeze them together a little bit. Straighten it up first. And then squeeze, squeeze, straighten it up. Sometimes they flip over a little bit when you squeeze them. Like that and like that. Okay, so we're going to take this end one round to the back, and we're going to make these 3 a little bit more shaped, and then we're going to pull that one up like that. See how it's bent over a little bit there? I'll just straighten that out. Now they're relatively the same. I'm hoping they look the same, but please don't, you know, spend hours on these, because at the end of the day, you're probably going to curl these little feet around a little bit of driftwood or put them somewhere in your house, so you're not going to notice that anyway. Or, you know, you'll need something to display it on, and often the little claws will go over something anyway. So let's put those aside now. We've got those made. They can go over there, and we're going back to our body. So what you need to do now is get these chocolate pipe cleaners. Now, generally, I'll put that in the end there and cover that little bit of wire up at the end, because what we don't want is to see any pipe cleaner there. We shouldn't. But anyway, I'm just going to turn this around. Just not super tight and not super loose. Just, we're putting this pipe cleaner on so that the wool will go onto the pipe, onto the wire easily. Without pipe cleaner, you're not going to get the wool on. Now, sometimes what I do is I turn these little bits of wire over, so if kids or somebody are playing with your, not that they should be, I wouldn't suggest that, but even yourself, just so you don't poke yourself with a little bit of wire. So I came from the beak down, now I'm going from the tail up, and I'm going to take this pipe cleaner on the other side. As you can see, I didn't wrap it around crazily there. Okay, just wrapping it around like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this last pipe cleaner in half for the legs. Like that. Hook that over there. And then I'm going to, because the legs, see the wool is going to come quite a way down there. Probably leave about 1 inch or so, 1.5 inches, and that pipe cleaner can just go back up the leg, that's no problem. So hook that over there, and then just run your pipe cleaner down like that. Right, now what we're going to do is we're going to start building his body. So with your needle, with your 2038 star that's come in your kit. Now I may use other needles, but I know this is a beginner's kit, but what I like to do is to show you, you know, the other things. Oh, it's so hot in Brisbane today. It's kind of making out that it's coming into winter, but I don't know that it is. Sorry, just let me get myself a bit cooler. Right, so I've given you all this core wool in your kit. Now it comes in a little bit of a sheet, but what you might like to do is stop the video and cut it into strips, probably about, this is a bit too wide, more like 1 inch. You cut them all up into 1 inch till you've got, you know, 3 or 4 strips. And then I'll show you what we're going to do with them. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of wool. I might move that aside until we need that. And I'm going to make a little bit of a body, just roll it up and pop it under there. I'm trying to get this shape. So once that's under there, Then what I'm going to do, now there's no wrong or right to doing this. I'm just going to try and keep that wool inside there. So, oops, that broke. So don't pull it too hard or it'll break. Don't do it too gently. But I'm going to go under his legs, around the top here, around the back of his legs, back over, around under his legs again. So I'm just going round and round until I've got some wool on. Then I'm just going to put it in with my 38 needle. Now, in needle felting, we use this single needle a lot, but there are other ways to needle felt a little bit quicker. So the 3-prong needle is fantastic. Goes in really, really deep as opposed to the other one that I'll just show you so you know. This is 8. This got 8 needles, which is useful, but not for this. I'll show you later. So you can use one needle to do this. Absolutely no problem at all. But as you can imagine, if you had 3 going in, you'd be 3 times as fast. So you do get a choice online whether you want to buy this or not. But why I do that is because once you've bought one, lots of ladies like to buy kits over, you know, all the kits, but they don't need the tools. So that's why you get the option. Okay, let's go start wrapping a little bit of wool, sort of firm, not too tight, but not too loose, all the way down the end. We'll do that. Now, what we're trying to achieve is this shape. We're a long way off it at the moment, but let me show you how we're going to get there. Okay, see how there's a big hole here? So I could actually just get a little bit of wool like that. And put that on the back there and fill that hole in. Like that. I generally don't start putting him on the paper until I've got a little bit of wool on, and then I start working out if the shape's right or not. Okay, so let's get another strip. Just going to cover it like that. Don't want too much wool on his tail, so I'm just going to keep going around his body here. Now, the firmness of your creations, that's a big thing to get used to. Depends what you're making, where it's going to be, if it's going to be in a mobile, if it's going to hang on the Christmas tree, or if it's going to sit in a branch. Like often these birds will end up in the branch of a pot plant in your house. You know, mostly I find I don't want them too heavy. You know, I really don't. So I don't felt super hard, and I don't felt lightly either. Now, you can felt it as hard as you want. That's no problem. But you can't felt them really light, because when you go to put on your beautiful wools on top, it will just, you will change the shape. If your core wool now has not been felted to a certain degree. So you need to kind of get it, it needs to be a little bit harder than that. Kind of firm, but not rock hard is what I'm aiming for. If you do it rock hard, that's fine. But the harder you felt it, the more wool you use and the more time you spend felting. So, and the heavy the item will be. So if you're posting it or something, you don't want it to be super heavy. Depends how big it is. And if you want to hang it, you don't want it super heavy either. But then you don't want to lose your top coat right into your core wool because you felted it softly. Anyway, you'll get an idea because of how much I'm felting it here. So I've been felting for about 3 minutes, I guess, and I'm thinking that that is getting to the shape that I want. Right, let's have a look. Okay, so he needs a lot more under his legs here. And I think that I'm going to put it on that way. I'm going to put another bit on there. And I'm going to swap between the single needle and the multi-tool, just because I know a lot of you have only got the single needle. But just to speed up the filming, I will at times grab my multi-tool, so you're all just not watching me sit here and stab. Stab, 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 when you've kind of got the idea of we need to stab that. Okay, so I've put in... So it's not always about wrapping round and round and round. It's often about finding spots that need wool and wrapping it maybe that way instead of going around. I'm feeling like we could go down this way as well. So I'm going to put that, oops, wrong one, that's the 8. So I have a 3 needle and I have an 8, and I also have a clover tool that, you know, I can't live without, along with my different types of needles. Now, the great thing about doing this beginner's video is throughout it, I'll be telling you about what they all do. So then, and while you're working away with your one needle there, you'll be going, oh yeah, I can see how that needle or that multi-tool would make this job easier. But, you know, sometimes people buy the kits and they go, no, I'm not going to do that again. So if you want to stop and, you know, find the right tools and buy them online and wait a couple of days for them to arrive, yeah, or just you're too excited and you just want to get on with it. I worked with one needle for years. There wasn't all these multi-tools and everything when I first started needle felting. Very, very little. Sometimes I'd tape 2 needles together in the beginning so I could needle. I realized that, you know, I thought about having more needles, so I just made it myself. And we didn't have these blue handles either to tell the difference between the needles, so I ended up just working with needles like that, which kind of damages this part of your hand. So if you're going to get some, if you think you love this and you want to do a lot of felting, I suggest you get yourself some handles, because you hold these handles like a pen. So, that, you know, they really don't damage your hand hardly at all, because your hand is actually already in that shape of a pen. Okie dokie, so let's start. He's starting, you can see him starting to bulk out here. We need more along the back here. So let's have a look at how we can do that. Maybe one like that and one like that. Let's just have a look. Round like that. Now, the thing about needle felting is, you know, often people go, oh, mine doesn't look like yours. It's all about how much time you spend on it. I don't know that there is a lot of skill. You might be thinking, oh, my heavens. But, you know, when I look at ladies' work, you can, you know, they say to me, what am I doing wrong? I say, not doing anything wrong. You just need to felt it a bit more. You know, that's often the problem. And what I suggest is that you put it away, you know, for a week, or, you know, at least for a cup of tea, and go and make yourself a cuppa and come back, oh, and have another little bit of a go. If you don't think it's going the way you want it to go, definitely walk away for it and get online, have a look at some, you know, kookaburras. I've always got a photo, and not looking at 10 or 15. So, sorry, my neighbour's just waving at me through the window. We've got a bat that's injured in my backyard, and he's helping me with it. he knows I'm busy. He's gone away now. Sorry, I lost track of what I was saying because I've got a window right here in front of me. Right, so we're looking at the shape of this bird. There we go. I think he needs a little bit more down the front here, but I'm going to kind of keep that kind of a bit skinny through there. Now, you'll see a lot of people, if you've been watching YouTubes and that, everybody's got a different idea on how they make these shapes, you know. But for me, I feel like little bit by little bit, I just lay thin bits of wool over where I think it needs to go. And I cut muscles in and everything later into the bird or the animal that I'm making. But I find going, rather than putting a huge amount of wool on and filtering it down and then realizing it's too much, I just go little by little by little. Okay, now I'm going to start shaping his head. So let me find a bit of wool that I'm happy with. I might cut this bit here in half. And I'll just cut that in half. And then I'm going to start wrapping it around like that. Coming back up. Doing kind of a figure 8 there, like that. Yep. Okay, so he needs more over the top of his head. I might do one more figure 8 along his around. I see I just broke that bit. That's okay, I'll just hammer that in and start again. I'm going to go down his beak, not right to the end, because I don't want too much on the end of his beak there, because it needs to be a real Kookaburra beak. So you can see how I'm starting to get the shape. You've got wire in there, so be careful of your tools and your needles. If you go, I'm not jabbing hard. I'm jabbing fast, but I'm not really, so I can feel when I hit the wire. And often I'm going on the side like this, so I'm not actually hitting the wire. Okay, you can see that there's a dent in him there, so I'm just going to fill that little wee hole up there with a little bit of wool. Like I said before, I'm not putting lots of wool on all the time, because then I might end up with a big lump there that I thought, when I look at him, I don't like. So now now that I'm sort of getting to the shape that I want, I'm going to look at him from all different angles and see, if we look at him, see how that comes in like that. See how big his chest is through here? We've got that shape. Can you see how it looks a lot bigger there? So let's put a little bit more wool there. Now at this point, I have no idea what your birds look like. So if you don't feel like he needs more there in the chest, if you're going, oh my heavens, mine's already like got this huge chest, well, don't, you know, at this point you need to be thinking about your own bird and the shape that he is. I can't really help you now at this point as to, this is why I don't go now take 5 grams of wool and put this, because needle felting doesn't really work like that. You've kind of just got to, if you can feel him through there. To me, he feels quite thin through here. I feel like, well, you know, I need to put on, even before I put his wings on, I need to just give him a little bit of fur here, a little bit of more wool on his sides to make him a little bit fatter. I mean, the junior Kookaburra are very small, so, you know, it depends. The female's different, the male's different, you know, it depends on... Ah, gee, that hurt. I'm glad I didn't swear then. I'd have to chop it out of the video. It's talking and not concentrating. There's no blood, I don't think, so that's all good. Okay, so that's a bit fatter for me. I like that. Now I'm going to focus on his head a bit. He's got this huge kind of thing on top of his head. You can probably see better than I can because I'm looking at it from this angle and you're looking at it from straight down. Right, so you can get some wool like this and double it up and then put it. You see how I'm going to try and shape it. Tuck it under his chin there, like that. Put it around this side and tuck it under his chin, and that should start smoothing and giving him a little bit more of a... Now you want to be careful that you don't put too much wool on his beak, because we want that to... Oops-a-daisy. I put that there and squash that. He's going to have a bottom lip as well, so there's two parts to his beak. See, I'm going to make this part and then that part. So, and we're going to do that relatively early. I tend to do a fair bit of work on the face straight up, because once it's got a face, whatever I'm making, then I can kind of start getting, oh, okay, that's what shape I want that to go in now, and how far I want that to go, and yeah. Oh, that's what I was saying before, I think, when my neighbour interrupted us. About the, forgotten again. Oh, about looking online and seeing, like looking at 3 or 4 different kookaburras and, you know, grabbing little bits and pieces. I would suggest that you look at one kookaburra, find one you like, and then I'm looking at this one here. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This one here, right? Even though I'm not going to do his blue, I'm just having a look. So find one that you like that's standing kind of like in this kind of position, and then just use him, because otherwise it just gets, because they're all different, all their feathers are different colors, and like I said, there's juveniles and there's mummy and daddy ones, and so it just starts to get, oh, but this one starts, the dark starts here, and this one, so just find one that you like and then follow the colorings from there. Okay, so are we getting, once we've got this base coat on, this core wool, we don't want to be changing the shape too much of this, of whatever you're making. You should be able to see that this isn't a galah and this isn't a willy wagtail, right? You should be able to start a little bit seeing what kind of bird it is. I think he could just have one more on his head here. Because see how this shape of his head goes like that? That's kind of what you're looking for, and I don't think we've got that there. So I'm going to stack this wool up and put that there, so he's got a bit more of a shape like that. I'm going to put that down. Oops. Sorry if my head and that gets in the way. I film all my videos on my own and edit them all and everything. It's a really big procedure. I have to do that so that I don't pay anybody else to work with me. Otherwise the kits would be dearer. I want everyone to be able to do this, but I I am aware that the kits just get really dear once I start bringing in video editors and all of that. So hopefully my amateur videos are good enough for you all to learn the skills that I'd love you to have, or up the skills if you've already got skills. Okay, so I'm feeling that's a little bit more the shape of his head, like that. There's a dent there at the back of his neck. See there? Now we're going to do the wings. I'll show you how we're going to do that. So I'm going to get 2 pieces of core wool about the same. And I'm just going to give them a bit of a zhuzh, just to felt them a little bit more. There we go. Oh, that's the second time. I can't believe I've done that. I never do that. The light's bad today or something, I don't know. Okay. So maybe it's better if I do it on my wool pad. That there's various things you can felt on. Hopefully you've all got a lovely wool pad like this. I needle felt on this. This has got a very thick, half the thickness of this on the top of it. And then rice, it's only, I do it like this to make it so big. Because I'm all over the show with my felting. And okay, so what we're doing, if you've got your wool pad like this, you're just felting this wool a little bit more. And then what I'm going to do, doesn't matter if it's lumpy, I'm going to cut it to about the same size and a bit of a wing shape. Yeah, like that. Right. See, those are about the same size. And then I'm going to put this one. I want it to go like, I haven't really done it that shape, have I? Let's pull it out a bit and redo that then. I want them to be a little bit more that shape. There we go. Okay. So follow your pattern there. And then we're just going to put them above his leg. Actually, they seem to go right up to his shoulder. Kookaburra's wings. I just did a Maggie and the wings don't go up near as high. So I'm going to put these wings on either side like that. And just have a bit of a look and make sure that they're even-ish. Just go around all around the outside of them. Keep them a little bit off at the back here because we want that to be a little bit off. Have a look at them from here. They might be a bit too puffy, so give them a little bit of a felt down. There we go. Okay. Right, I'm happy with that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start on his beak. Now, kookaburras generally have a darker, look, if you look here, he's got a darker top and a bit lighter underneath. Look at this one over here. See how it's dark on top and lighter underneath? And this one as well. So that's what we're going to try and do. You can see how I've done that there, lighter and then darker on top. So the bird that you're having a look at, he might be a little bit different. He might be darker or lighter. But what I'm going to do is a darker top. So I'm going to get some dark wool here. Natural dark is what that's called. But I'm also going to mix in just a little bit of, so I don't want it too dark, this top. So you can blend like this, or you can use a hand carder. You can use one hand carder or two. Generally with a little bit of wool like this, I'm just blending like that. But these hand carders are fantastic. You don't need them, but like everything, they, you know, it starts to speed your work up. And sometimes I like it really stripy, so I don't felt it that much, blend it that much. But other times I like it blended really well together. So what we're going to try and make now is a piece of felt that sits over the front of this beak. Okay, so we need it a little bit like that. So let's try and get it a bit pointy at the front, going out wider at the back like that. Okay. So we're just going to felt it a little bit, but before we put it on, so it'll be easier to do that. And it's quite wide. Well, you'll see how wide it is. You can bring some of that colour, if you think it's too thin, down onto your piece if you want, like that, and make it thicker. Don't waste any wool. Never throw wool away. There's always bits and ways, because I can already tell that this is way too much wool, look, for this bird. So you can start flipping it over a little bit, or cutting it off, or I don't know about flipping it over so much. That might become problematic for you guys. So let's just cut little bits off and start putting it, if you've got a multi-tool. Now the best multi-tool for this, making little fine bits of felt, is actually this clover. All 5 needles in there, and it works a bit differently to the 3-prong when it goes in really deep. So as it goes in, it's just really felting this pad. But this one just goes on top and really just felts you a little bit of a felt like that. If you don't have that, just keep going with your needle, with your 1 needle. Or if you want to put the 2 together, I used to felt with them like that. You might want to do that with your 2/38. Okay. Anyway, I'll persevere with this as well. Now, once you feel like you've got a little bit of felt going on like that, I feel like I need to cut that there, then you can think about putting it on like that. Now you want it to hang right over, because you need to make that little thing there. The bottom one's going to end here, but the top one's going to end quite a lot at the end. So just make sure you have a really lovely hard piece of felt right at the tip, because it's quite hard to get that once you put this onto the bird. Okay, so go over that quite a few times. If you think it's too thin, we don't want it really thick, but you don't want it really thin either. So that's quite good. Don't worry that it's all, you know, like that, or we can trim all of that back. Let's have a measure. All right. So we want it to go right down and over. So if you feel if it's not long enough, what you need to do is get some more wool, blend it again, and then add it. Add it down the side. Or if you feel your sides aren't thick enough, just add that down the sides and thicken it up. Once you've got your piece onto your bird, if you go, oh, it's way too small, don't throw this piece away. Just add more wool to it and get it right. Now, one side you might like better than the other. I like this side because it's a bit darker for me. But you might like the other side. It might be darker or it might be lighter. So have a look at both sides and decide on which one that you like. Right, now, you can also rub it a little bit in your hands. You can iron it. That makes it filled up a bit more. That rubbing it in your hands will make it felt down a little bit more as well. Okay, so let's have a look now. I'm going to put that on. Now decide, you might want to use your picture, and you might even want to get a Sharpie and just, I'll do that for you because that might be helpful.